and some next steps. So why do we do a capital improvement program? Why are we talking about this now? Why don't we just talk about this when it comes time for budget? Well, the first reason we do it is because we're required by city ordinance to do it. The city manager is required to bring you a draft within 150 days of the first fiscal year. And then the city council is actually required to pass a capital improvement plan 90 days before the budget. And why are we required by ordinance? It's because it's important. These are big ticket items. We need time to be able to reflect on them. You need time to be able to look at them, talk to constituents, and reflect on it. So that's the reason we're having this discussion now. The document serves three purposes. It's a planning document. It's a 5-year look at our capital needs. It's not a 1-year operational look. It's also a communication document. When you have constituents come to you and they say, well, what are you spending all this money on? You don't have to refer them back to our 300-page budget document. You can show them our much abbreviated, here's the big ticket items, here's what it costs, here's what fiscal year we plan on doing it. And it's also a financial document. It makes sure that our capital needs are in line with fiscal realities. So the projects are categorized into these three major groups: transportation, environment, and capital assets. And again, these are big ticket items we're talking about. If it costs less than $50,000, we can talk about those items come budget time when we talk about more operational needs. That's true with everything except for information technology and fleet, which you can see the thresholds there. Because we're a community that has many different needs, we need to be able to leverage many different revenue sources to be able to provide those needs. So when we talk about our capital improvement plan, these are the revenue sources that we'll be talking about. We have our sales tax for both water and sewer. We have various grants and loans from federal and state entities. We have our TTF. We have our motor fuel tax, which is administered by the state. We have PRS, which has been a major topic lately. We have our fire sales tax, our enterprise funds, which are supported mostly by user fees. And then we have our casino revenue. Now, this is probably the most important slide that I have to show you tonight, because this slide shows that we have a lot of work to do in the next few years. As you can see, I highlighted them in red. PRS, we've already been having our public meetings. Council's been doing a good job helping educate the public of what that tax initiative supports. That's that 3/8 cent that's set to sunset. But then the following year, we have our capital improvement sales tax for our sewer. And then the year after that, it'll be time to talk about TTF 6. So we're going to be very busy in the next several years. And it's going to be very important to have these conversations with the community. That way they're aware of what these tax initiatives represent and what they support within the community. So now this is my favorite part. I get to talk about all the fun stuff everybody else did this year. So I think everybody here can recognize our 121,000 square foot indoor sports complex. We have 2 full-sized indoor turf fields. We have 6 hardwood regulation size basketball courts, which convert to 12 regulation volleyball courts. We just had a member of the CBB as well as the facility manager come in here and share a lot of great economic development numbers that this thing generates. We also have our new Blair residence. This is also known as the police headquarters, the municipal court, and our new jail. It's a 36,000 square foot facility. Of that 36,000 square feet, we dedicate about 23,000 to the police department. There's about 8,000 dedicated for the jail, and the municipal court has about 5,000 square feet. Here you can see our brave firefighters over here. They're standing behind their old station off Curry Lane. That's station number 4. And to the right is our new 10,000 square foot fire station, which is at the intersection of Lexington and Flod, and is now home to the new, well, not new, but fairly new, Laurel Grove subdivision. I don't know if you can see there's ceramic bunny collection sitting right above the fire station number 4 sign. but Chief did assure me that their bunnies made it to the new station. They're very happy. Here we have our Fire Station 2 annex. You can probably tell by the garage doors, this is fire apparatuses, and when mechanics are working on them, space to do that. But it also serves as additional space for fire department equipment, and there is a fitness room in there. And it actually served as home to our firefighters when we were doing our Station 2 renovations. We did renovations to the bunk area to provide more privacy. We renovated a kitchen and the restrooms. And here is our $1 million investment in the Main Street. This was from Independence to Broadway. There was a concrete street reconstruction. We added new curb gutter, sidewalks. We added new lighting and street furniture. Now this image, this project is really another feather in the cap of our Assistant Public Works Director, Stan Pollitt. Last year, he was able to get off the books that major tow drain flood wall project. That was a major undertaking. This one, while not a 3-day project like the flood wall, it was certainly a very long project. I think the bridge closed in 2013. So he had been looking how to best create this new connection where our Sprigg Street Bridge had failed. So at the end of the day, it's going to be close to a $6 million project. We were able to leverage some emergency relief funds to help pay for it. But we took what was a 140-foot bridge and made it a 380-foot bridge. So quite an undertaking for the bridge replacement, the sinkhole mitigation, as well as the street repair. Now, I do want to recognize several people here. These aerial images are actually provided by the engineering department. So I wanted to thank, one, the City Council for making this funding available, manager for recognizing an innovative tool that helps us do our jobs better. And I'd also like to thank Jennifer Henson and our engineering division. When we first learned that the city manager was going to make funds available for us to be able to purchase this equipment, everybody was excited. We're getting a cool UAV or a drone, as some people call them, but nobody knew how to use the thing, and nobody was certainly licensed to be able to use it. And I wasn't going to be volunteering because I had a terrible reputation with drones. I lost my son's first drone the first day we got it to a gust of wind. So I wasn't going to take this very expensive equipment and start flying it around. But Jennifer Henson in our department became very intrigued with the idea, learned what certification she would be required to have through the FAA, for a couple months for its remote pilot certification, and passed the exam. So she actually has an airman certificate to be able to operate this equipment. So I wanted to recognize her as well. Oh, and these images. So the images we're able to take are actually 4K. And if you're not sure what that is, our HD TVs like this HDTV, it's 2 times the resolution of an HD TV. So I can actually take these pictures and I can zoom in really far with this image. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to show you where Jennifer was when she took this picture. So I saw what looked to be one of our trucks up there. So I zoomed into the truck and there's that little dark spot in the middle of the street. I zoomed in that little dark spot and I could see easily that it was actually just a temporary sign. So I was like, oh, well, maybe that's her at the bottom of the picture. So I zoomed in, and it's Jennifer and Jake Gerard in our department always go out because Jake's needed as a spotter with the UAV. And I could tell even from this height that it wasn't Jake or it wasn't Jennifer. It was one of our contractors, and he's actually kind of just bent over inspecting something in the road. So really great piece of technology for us. Our Bloomfield Phase 5 that we completed this year. This was about a $3.4 million project. It was from Benton Hill to White Oak. We took what was a 20-foot road and expanded it to 28 feet. We also added an 8-foot recreation trail, and we had to replace 2 bridges. This is one of my favorite slides. This is actually a before and after. And as I was going on Google looking at where I had the picture to the right, but I wanted to capture what it looked like before. So I found where I thought was about the same spot, but it just looks so different. I had to ask our city engineer, is this the same spot in the road? She's like, yeah, that's it. It just looks a lot different. Now, granted, the foliage coming down probably makes it look a lot different. So Veteran Memorial Drive, we completed phase 5 this year. We also completed phase 3A, which is up around the sportsplex. These are images of phase 5. This was about a $1.7 million investment. To your left is looking at the Hopper extension, and to your right is looking at the Scenic connection. So from Hopper to Scenic, it's about a 36-foot road with curb and gutter. And our asphalt overlay program. Because of TTF, we were able to invest $1.4 million this year into our asphalt overlay program. Those funds allowed us to address 28 streets, alleys, and parking lots. And because of TTF, next year we'll be able to invest $700,000, and the year after that we should be able to invest another $700,000. The image to the left is North Street. And we also closed out our repurposed TTF3 funds with our neighborhood street repair program. We invested another $1.5 million into our neighborhood streets. We were able to do Lexington Place as well as Ashland Hills and several other places throughout the city. Improvements. We did lighting for field 3, 13, and 14. Those were soccer fields. That's the image you can see to the right. And then to the left are actually images you can see of the paving close to the facility. In the top part, you can see that little strip there. And then what was a gravel parking lot to the left is actually like a sidewalk, concrete sidewalk arrow pointing right toward where it is. But it's to the left of the image. What was a gravel parking lot is now a paved parking lot. Oh, and we repaved the major entrance right off of West End, which is just out of the scope of this picture on the right. And then we had our partnership with the university for the Fountain Street roundabout and our Shawnee turf improvements. What were dirt fields, they were able to upgrade into turf fields. We continued upgrades with our maps this year. This year we had created a legend for the projects we had numbered. We incorporated.
Alex, before you get off of that,
yeah,
council and staff, this page, look at what was completed in 2017. Congratulations to staff, council. We really got a lot done in 17. A lot done in 17. It was when I started through this, I said, that all in 17? It was. Some lingered a little bit, like that one Veterans Memorial, but it's great. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
We continued improvements on our maps. We incorporated our legend into our line items. That way you don't have to flip back to the legend to see what fiscal year we're proposing to fund a project or not. So hopefully that continues to be of help as for both transportation and environmental. And here's a look at our 5-year program projects. We've identified almost $51 million in projects that actually have a funding source, and we believe we should be able to do it. And then we have close to $154 million in our contingent that we've identified as projects that are needed, but don't necessarily have a funding source at this time. I do caution that $154 million is somewhat inflated because there is some double entry for projects, City Hall being an example of that. We have funding to $900,000 to replace our HVAC system. Obviously, if we pick a new location for City Hall, we wouldn't need to make that investment. Here you can see in a graph form our program projects. You can see facilities is at 14%. Last year, this graph had facilities at 31% of the project's program. So you can see we've gotten a lot of projects completed for facilities. Transportation represented 41% last year. It's at 53% this year. And then under contingent, City Hall really is a big driver of that 30% of contingent. So the overall program, Last year, we had the same assumptions last year as we did this year. We assumed that council was okay with the plan that was adopted last year, so we brought forward similar projects. I would like to recognize Beth Little in my department. She's the one that really solicits and collects all of these projects from the various departments, uses her Excel skills to create the document and generate the PDFs. So she's responsible for both the electronic version and the hard copy that you have. Going forward, we're moving forward with our TTF 5 funds. TTF has a new focus than other TTFs did. We're actually looking at a lot more maintenance projects. We only have one new road in TTF 5, and that's Fountain Street. That's planned in 2021. Again, we've closed out our neighborhood street repair program. Thanks to TTF, we continue making investments into our asphalt overlay. And then some specific projects we still have programmed. We have our Sloan Creek Bridge, that's the raising of that structure. We have Independence, that's from Gordonville to Carruthers, that's about $3.5 million. But that's for both the study and to be able to implement the recommendations of that study. Right now, we are in the process of doing the study. We also have West End, that's from Rose to Bertling. And we have Sprigg, that'd be from William to Broadway. And then Fountain Street, again, at fiscal year 2021 being the only new street.
So in the existing street paving and overlay, 700,000. On here it says planning year 18 and construction year 19.
For asphalt overlay?
Yeah.
But we're able to invest 700,000. So that would be, that money would be used for construction in 18-19.
Yeah, in 18.
Yes.
Not 19.
18-19. Yeah. Fiscal year 18-19.
Yeah.
Right.
But this summer.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the next one I'm kind of interested in is the automated patching truck, the 250,000.
Mm-hmm.
What's the timetable? I'm getting that hopefully sooner rather than later.
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the timetable is.
Okay.
Steve, I don't know if you can speak to that or not.
I know we had talked about that last year, I thought, too, hadn't we?
Yeah, we had earmarked some innovation funds for that. But I think this year was the year we were going to research and look at it and then do it in 19. So I don't know, John, is that the way you recall it?
You got fund balances in TTF, right?
This is from,
That was
this is out of innovation fund.
Yeah, this is innovation fund, yeah. I'm looking ahead on TTF.
I just recall it's something that's probably got moved down because of the radio interoperability.
Right.
Which makes,
For those concepts.
Yeah, thanks for that, John. You're right. Because the radios are more expensive. We
put the 3 million in over 2 years from Armstrong into neighborhood streets, and now we go get a year without that. We could find a way to get that into a purchase this year.
I agree.
It would be helpful.
Yeah, we'll look at that and see if we can cash flow. I think John's right. I think now that he reminds me, it's a cash flow issue with that and some other priorities. So that's something we'll do a little work on and bring it to you.
Thank you, Mayor. That was good feedback.
The other one is the continuing the LED replacement. I know we had a series last year in 17. Here, and I guess I'm getting mixed up in 18-19 year, but it says planning year 18 and construction year 19. But we'll have a LED program for this year.
We were just opening bids for our LED program. Yeah, January 25th.
That'll be,
TTF, we have an amount program for each year, each fiscal year.
so we got a year that's got, we're gonna open for this year soon. And this would be the 18 to open for 19.
Right.
So we have it every year.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll see streetlights
Okay.
each year.
All right.
And is that cost still accurate? I know we looked at a significant number of blocks in South Cape and that cost was nowhere near what
That's
was
a,
expected.
and that's a different deal because those lights are owned by Ameren. So we entered into an agreement with them to up our rent of those lights rather than us paying the upfront cost to replace them. They bear that.
I see.
And so it's a different methodology.
Trying to force as much into TTF into either completion or underway by the time we get to 2020. 2020 sounds a long time off, but we're well into 2018 now. And so West End Rose to Bertling won't go until next year?
Yeah, it would, yes.
Next calendar year?
Yes.
And then the Main Street project, it would be good to have that. It said 2019 and 2020. It would be good to have that underway. We can get that done in 19 and get the Main Street under construction either late 19 or early 20 before we go to the voters in probably August for TTF 6.
Yeah, and that's cash flow, because we do it pay as you go and, we always lag. And there's always those few projects that with TTF that we haven't done because we just haven't had the cash flow to accomplish them. And, so I think this is what our cash flow will allow. That, any more to add to that?
Anything we can do to, in those areas to have something under construction there ahead of that would be helpful. I know that's always a crunch, and I know Fountain Street is still 2021. I think that's fine. But that last one of, let's see.
Yeah, we'll see if we can maybe get it started if we have enough cash flow to do that.
But you got
Fountain.
big money at this
Main.
point into Independence that may cash flow.
Yeah.
I just think it's important that those key projects geographically get either done or underway ahead of that next vote. It is, we've experienced that before, and I know that the time lag has been an issue and sometimes, but just a comment, okay?
Was the Independence, the Gordonville to Crothers, was that always originally part of the TTF 5? It just seems like we've done a lot of work there to that. Do we really think it's gonna, estimation that it's gonna be as much as 3.5?
We don't know yet.
We don't know.
Well, I'm just curious because it says some of the planning year was last year, so I didn't know. Well, it's fiscal year, so.
And I also, just clarification, I do think that we've expanded the boundary up to Sunset because we've seen some vehicle stacking there, so we've extended the project boundary, I believe, up to Sunset. To go and just take a look at find those vehicles are stacking there.
That is an issue. I travel that all the time, and that is an issue, like, you know, as they come westbound.
So we'll study from Sunset up to the.
That's good. Yeah, okay.
And there's a lot of changing traffic patterns around there, and we want to be sure, be able to draw those in as we study it. So it's going to take a good amount of study and looking at a lot of different options there.
And I already asked Scott, but just a comment here for council. I think it'd be good for, as we get the concrete repair, and that's out for bid now, right, for this year? That, and then the asphalt overlay, when we get those streets determined for sure, get those information to council. That will help council have that information when they get calls on street issues. Both asphalt and concrete. Be good to have that, too.
And then on fiscal year 21-22, we have airport 10 T hangars, but I noticed that replacing the airport's corporate hangar is under capital assets facilities. Is there a reason that one of them is under transportation, one of them is under facilities?
I had to follow up with Bruce on that question.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And the corporate hangar, I'm surprised this isn't a bigger priority. My understanding is that one of the doors fell down and, I mean, it could have killed somebody. Those doors are enormous. Is that hangar even usable at this time? I mean, I know it's 3 hangars, it's not just one.
In February to give a facilities presentation to council on the status of all of those types of projects. Now, the distinction too, I'll have to check with Bruce or Alex came to on the distinction. I just noticed that the one that the T hangars, he's relying on some state funding for that, whereas the corporate hangar he has listed as the general fund. Don't know if that makes any difference, but he'll be here to give us a full overview of all.
In February?
In February.
Okay.
From a broad stroke standpoint on some of the repairs and how we identify what we do within this, I think my worry is that we've been very fortunate to have TTS and have the 5th rendition, but what happens if sometime the voters don't agree and they don't want another extension? So to be able to take care of, as a direction that council kind of went through last year about taking care of what we've got, I kind of get worried about if we're going to have those funds to play around with TTF. It's going forward. So for between now and 2020, we need to repair and do as much as we can with those funds.
That's what you're saying.
Well, repair. So I mean, I could argue the fact of like the Carruthers, some of that Independence project, even though it is in TTF 5, is that really repair or is that a traffic issue? I mean, I'm talking potholes and overlay and people bouncing around in town. I'm not talking about traffic backup.
And I understand what you're saying. I think though that when we passed TTF 5, we had a long discussion about how much to invest in repair, and we did up it quite a bit. But we also had a discussion about, this probably will only keep the roads about where they are, because as you repair things, the age of our system is such that new needing to repair is going to come on board.
Right.
But we said, well, let's try this for 5 years and see where we are. Well, that's kind of coming to pass, about like we thought it would. But we also made a commitment to do some of these other jobs. I think it's important that we keep our commitment to voters. The only one we never built, we actually sent back to voters and said, is it okay if we don't build it? And so I think that's been a kind of a hallmark of doing what we say we're going to do. But I mean, I appreciate the discussion, because I think it's a discussion we need to have, every year about where we are on repair and what's happening to the condition of our roads.
And I think as we get to 2020, you know, we've been through 20 years and a lot of New Street and a lot of major arterials that were redone. Mount Auburn, Independence, Broadway, Perryville, you know, and LaSalle and Seymour. A lot of those have been done. So I think 20 is going to be a totally different look. And even though, yeah, you're right, people are going to be looking at the repair, that's what we're going to have to tout. That whatever X dollars the council and staff end up with for that it will be specific to, just like the last 5 years that we put on, you know, we got those now through 2021 of the 5 years that we're doing with neighborhood streets. There'll be a lot more neighborhood street oriented for TTF 6, my opinion, than we have in the past, even though we did up it quite a bit
Well, as you get
for our
towards the end
TTF 5.
of TTF 5 and you do some of these projects, and the thing that I've always been liked is that since TTF 1, these projects have been done in just about the priority that were identified and were passed for the vote. With a couple of exceptions, but it may changes. But as we get this next year or year after, and you start talking about TTF 6, I think you're going to find, like Harry said, that the public's going to demand we spend more money maintaining what we have. But if you identify what you're going to do in TTF 6, and out of that, and all you can do is identify those projects and go to the public and say, look, we've done it 5 times. We need to do it again to keep this up.
And we can very quickly go back to how we spent the 3 million from Armstrong and solicit those neighbors and how pleased they were with that and Lexington Place and out west and some of those that are done. We got all kinds of compliments about those.
Well,
There's more to do,
yeah, no, and
but that's where funds need to be concentrated more as we go on to 2020.
and we've all discussed it, and I think the piece of it that I've got is what we're doing with TTF currently, which we can't go back and redo that, and what we're doing out of general fund, we need to do more. We've identified that for TTF 6. However, we need to be honest with ourselves and say, TTF 6 isn't a given.
No.
Neither was 5 or 4 or 3
No,
or 2.
I know, but I mean, you know, a little planning and contingency on how we're going to prepare if there is a vote no. And we don't really talk about that a lot.
There's a vote no, and a lot of those projects won't get done.
They just won't get done. Because
Because
that is the funding source.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and the other piece of that is that how do you speed up some of those projects? I've kind of talked with Scott before, and how do you speed up a Veterans Memorial instead of having to wait for TTF 8 potentially?
Well, we have
You got some.
yeah, we've got some thoughts there. And really that's probably, can't say because there's other thoughts, but it might be the only new project in TTF 6. It's potential of only being the only new project in TTF 6.
Well,
So it will come, and we've been very successful in pay as you go, not bonding, pay as you go. And I know when I said it today, right a few minutes ago, I'd like to have more done sooner, and we all would. And you want to do that, but that has been very successful, and we have followed through. We haven't done Armstrong, and we asked about that on TTF 1. We didn't do Coggy. And the neighbors there asked that we didn't do Coggy. Other than that, we have followed through 100% on everything in TTF. There is a lag time. Understand that.
Well,
Yep, the council gets heartburn. Mayors get heartburn on that. Time lag a little bit, but
Well, we saved millions and millions and millions of dollars on interest we would have paid if had we bonded them.
No
bonded
question.
them. So that's one thing. I think your point, Robbie, is a good one. I think, last time we did quite a bit of work on kind of different scenarios of what happens if we invest more or less in taking care of what we do. I think we can probably do some of that work to show if this goes away then we're talking about only having money to do what's in our general budget. And if you take that and spread it over, how many miles of road do we have?
200.
That's just 200 miles, huh?
233.
233 miles.
Linear
You
miles of-
you put that over 233 miles, and I'll tell you, I think our thing will show it, but what that will really come down to is we will begin to pothole patch everything we do. We will probably have to give up concrete repair, and certainly doing all entire streets. We'll be in a position where we'll need that pothole patching machine, because that's what we're going to be using. We're going to be putting asphalt on top of concrete streets, and that will be the story of what we will do. And I think that's really kind of what you're looking for.
And when we're gonna be, you know, that asphalt repair and concrete has always been one line item,
Yep.
not specific. In 2020, we'll probably have to be more specific on where and what.
Yeah, and certainly on the TTF monies.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so for environment, in our wastewater, we have our influent pump station, automatic course screen. That's about $200,000. We have our riverfront force main repairs, phase 2. That one we're estimating about $165,000. And then we have our sewer system I&I program, which we believe would be about $100,000. In our water, and this is supported by our capital improvement sales tax,
Core project done.
we have our plant 1 residuals, which are improvements to solid handlings. That's about $1 million. We also have our Cornville booster pump station. That's estimated to be around $900,000. And then we have our plant 1 filter rehab and re-rating, and that's about $1.5 million. IT, we remain in good shape. We are in phase 2 of our 3-phase radio interoperability project. It's a very complex project with competing interests and a lot of technical jargon. And we're very happy our deputy city manager is championing that for us, and we don't have to. We have our new aerials. We're asking.
That's the attaboy you get.
Yes, we were asking for them last year, but in our studies, we learned that the county was going to be updating their aerials for 2018, so we figured might as well wait. We let the trash guys get their GPS instead. And then we're also asking for Toughbook computers that would actually replace 12 iPads. Assistant Chief Hashscheider, I believe his words were, they're getting eaten alive by the way we're using them. So they need something more ruggedized for how they're using them. For facilities, airport, I believe we talked about fencing around the perimeter. That's about a $1.3 million project, but as the deputy city manager alluded to, Bruce is actually looking to leverage MoDOT funding to the tune of about 1.2 million. So it becomes a lot more palatable for us if he's able to get those funds. We also have our airport, which would be the 18 new barn-style T hangars to replace the air evac T hangars. We estimate that to be about $500,000. And then Capitol Park Master Plan Phase 2, that would be addition of a splash pad, ADA accessibility to our amphitheater, and new restrooms for the park. And then again, City Hall is still a major unfunded need at this time. Now, this is probably the second most important slide because it relates to the first most important slide, and that's to remind everyone of these upcoming dates. And providing capital infrastructure for our community and being able to maintain that capital infrastructure is highly dependent on these initiatives. So it's incumbent upon us as staff, it's incumbent upon the city council to be able to help educate the public of what these initiatives actually mean and how their lives would be impacted if we chose not to support one of these.
If you go back to that slide, Alex, just to point out, of course, you see the PRS2 projects that are proposed are in here as contingent projects. You're very familiar with those. The 2019 tax would be a water tax. And that's the reason you see an exhaustive list of water contingent in this program. So as we contemplate next year, the sunset of that tax, if we choose not to do that, then these are projects that wouldn't be done, that we would have to find another source for. Or if we chose another way to go, these are projects that are out there, needed projects that we would have to decide. Maybe they're not as high as need as other things. That's fine. Or perhaps we need to go for that tax as well. So that's just laying the groundwork. We're just trying to do that staff work available so you get to see all the things involved in that. And also TTF6, we've had some of those initial talks, and there are contingent projects and transportation that are there. And then the discussion we had about taking care of what we have is a critical one. So we're trying to prepare council and citizens for this discussion, this rich discussion about upcoming needs, upcoming votes, and how we will, how you all will give us guidance to address them. So, and then the other thing is City Hall, we are getting ready to send out a request for qualifications to have someone look at a City Hall facilities need study. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. So hopefully with that last slide, I've sufficiently scared you, and now we can move on with our next steps. We're at our first bullet here, and that's obtain council input. We've already received some input. I think that was some great input, but we'll be accepting input all the way up until we adopt it in March 5th. We're planning a public hearing where we can solicit input from the public on March 19th. And that would then satisfy council's timeline within 90 days of the first fiscal year. So once the council passes this document, we'll have already had these higher level big ticket discussions, and we can fold that into our budget, which we'll be talking about fairly shortly, but more operational costs. So with that, I'll turn it back over to city manager.
Okay, council, any other comments, questions on this at this point? Working document, so keep it by your bedside. Thanks, Alex, very much.
We will be posting this on our website for public input prior to the public hearing. And appreciate your all's guidance and leadership in this. These are all big leadership, difficult policy issues that we just can't do everything. When we look at being fiscally constrained, we cannot do everything. So we have to make choices. And that's, I guess, what you're elected to do. I would say that's the reason you get the big bucks, but you don't. So that's what you have the responsibility of doing.
Okay, anyone here to appear before the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay, let's go through the agenda.
All right.
No closed.
Yes, we do have closed session for litigation.
Okay.
We have one presentation tonight. We'll be recognizing the Huckstep family. I think Chief's going to have some folks here, and Mayor, you're going to make that presentation. Communications and reports. I think I'm going to share a little bit about PRS2. We've talked about the aquatic facility and kind of outlined a process that we will use to deal with that if it passes. And so I think I'll go through that during the communication time, and so you all can hear that and be very transparent about what that looks like. And then I think if Shelley doesn't talk about it, I may talk about the Southside NDI meeting that we had, some of the things that they're doing. So
Talk about Cape Vision 2042 this Thursday.
we sure can.
I'll lift up our news conference on Prospect League last Friday. That's the only thing I have. Other council? Okay.
All right. Consent agenda tonight, we have the second and third readings of the special tax bill over on South Frederick. The second and third reading of accepting the utility easement from the Cornelius is out at the business park. Second and third reading of the sign participation agreement with the highway department. This again is for the recognition of the state championship for 2 consecutive years from the Cape Central Tigers swim team. Number 5 is accepting the permanent easement out of the Rock Garden subdivision, Mr. Dutchmeyer. Number 6 is a escrow agreement with Williamsburg Phase 4. Number 7 is the acceptance and payments for the fire station number 2 interior renovation. And number 8 will be the release of the escrow from Phase 1 of Williamsburg. Are there any items you'd like to remove from the agenda or discuss further, or have any conflicts?
I'll abstain from 6 and 8 conflict.
Any others? Okay, we have 3 new ordinances tonight. The earlier P and Z went over those. It's the record plat for the Younce subdivision. I believe that's a 2-for-1, and the one at the Hopper Road, which is a small sliver that we used to own, and then the one at the Hoover subdivision, I believe, is a let's see, Hoover. Yeah, Hoover is the one that the house burned down next to it, so they're making it into one lot. And Younce is, they used to share a driveway, now they don't, so they're moving the property line. So that's those. And then we have 2 appointments tonight, Mayor.
I'll recommend to council a reappointment of Charlie Hobble to Board of Adjustment. And then they ask for the reappointment of recent people who were appointed. Jennifer Bacon was reappointed in 2016, and Laura Klippel was appointed just a while back. So those would be reappointments. Any other business comments? Okay. We'll stand adjourned and reconvene at 7 p.m.
Make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry we do now. We do need to have a closed session tonight for confidential communication with our legal counsel, personnel matters pursuant to 610-021, 1, 2, and 3. If I could have motion by Guard. Second by Zura. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, now we are adjourned. Chief, that was in the back of that. You can have that. I'll lay it out here. And Julia, when you get a minute.